Welcome back to Private Club Radio. I'm your host, Denny Corby, and in this episode, back again, we have Bruce Furman, GM, CCM, GM of VYC, Venice Yacht Club. And in this episode, we are talking about going from managing a privately owned country club to a member-owned country club, private club. And what's interesting is normally it goes from member-owned to a privately owned club. But in this case, he worked in the privately owned and he wanted to go into the member-owned because he wanted to learn about that experience. He wanted to put himself in a unique situation where he can learn and grow more. So I thought this was absolutely fascinating when I was talking to him about this off the record. And I said, hey, we have to do a podcast on this because I think it's super valuable. And I would just love to learn about what you learned. So back again for another episode, we have Bruce Furman, CCM, GM of VYC, the Venice Yacht Club. Please welcome my friend, Bruce Furman. Yeah. Yes. All right. So your whole time in club management, you were in privately owned clubs.
Right.
And now you're in a member-owned club. And most of the time, it's the opposite. People go from member-owned to private-owned. You went from private-owned to member-owned intentionally. Correct. And when we were talking at lunch, I was like, we were starting to talk about it. And I was like, wait, we're going to talk about it on here. I want to save everything. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So very interesting that, since the Breakers Hotel, which was also family-owned, back then it was Keenan family, and they probably still do. I don't know, but even when I transferred to Breakers West, which is a country club, it was still owned by the same family owners of the Breakers. So it's always been private clubs since Breakers West, but it's been an individual, family, or even developer owned. And what throws another, little intricate thing in is that it was for a short time for a while I was with a management company. So I had to please the management company, the owners and shareholders, which we call them, and the member. So it was, and I got real good at it. I thought this was normal, taking care of all these different things. I think you asked me at lunch about the biggest difference, and I really thought about that a lot. I think the biggest difference to me, my first year was learning about governance. I had no idea what this whole governance stuff was, because when it's family owned or individually owned, it's an advisory board that basically myself and the owners could say no to. The downside is that you're a developer's GM, right? So if they ever take over, you're the sacrificial lamb, right? You're like, well, you're the developer guy, you're gone. So, and I've been involved in CMAA for a long time, and, they're all like, oh, you got to go to a member-owned club, They'll take care of you. It's something you have to have on your resume. So when I was up in North Carolina, I saw Venice Yacht Club, and it was time to move back to Florida. And I wanted to move down because it was member run. It was governance. It was, committees. And the difference is I had one advisory board and one task force. Now I have 12 committees and a board, and, 760 members that are all owners as well. So, the other difference is when it was developer owned, it was all about lifestyle. Sell a lifestyle, sell the real estate. Let's sell 60 homes a year. Let's turn them and burn them, and we're going to spend all the money we can up front to have first class facilities. You run the programming, guys. Make sure programming keeps them there. And I've opened several clubs that way with developers, and it was a great formula when you don't have a recession, right? It works very good. And so I think, and then on the member-owned side, which has almost been 5 years now, I had to go through several years of learning, the whole board run club, from governance to rules and regs, to the bylaws, to how do you make sure your time management between committee meetings, mentoring the team, and making sure the members are happy, and food and beverage, and our big thing is marina and food and beverage. That's what we have, so we have to do the best there. So I would say those are my big takeaways, and I'm still learning, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn and declutter and rethink of, something new to be a better person and be a better mentor. And it's been a great ride, really has. And like I said, I'll keep learning. And, each year I have a new Commodore that's different, and there'll be different set of challenges. And I have to understand what those are early, so I know the hot buttons and I know how to stay in front of it. And it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
If you can, going back to when you were first, jumping into this, week 1, week 2, month, 1, 2, 3, what were some of the bigger challenges or things you may have not expected that popped up that you didn't anticipate for, in terms of like, whatever it is, committee stuff or issue, because you jumped into so much. Do you remember anything?
Absolutely. I remember quite a few things, actually. There was a GM here 2 GMs ago that died in a motorcycle accident. So the team really loved him, and he went through every position to get to where he was a GM. And he passed away. And then I felt for the next guy to take over, because it was just extremely difficult. Well, I was the next guy to take over, where he didn't do so well with being empathetic with the team. So my 30, 60, 90-day plan was it was in different increments like that. Come in, not make a lot of change, because I had no idea what was the status, and what was, how was the club. And they were used to being very hands-on, and I don't think they ever had a certified club manager at their club. So it took a lot of communication and a lot of changing how I run things. I had to look in the mirror and say, okay, this isn't for profit anymore. This is break even. And the philosophy change has been, food and beverage is amenity that the members consume year over year, right? It's period. That's it. It's dues is the most important. Well, that wasn't how the, for profit was. For profit was like, let's do 60 weddings. Let's really, really, try to make as much as we can on real estate, and, not lose so much in the club or make money in the club. So I think the big thing was make sure that I didn't make any big changes for the first 90 days. Come in, listen, learn, understand the team. I remember making a phone call to the clubhouse manager, who's still here, and he was the interim GM. And I said, look, I wanted to call you before I got there. I know you had your hat in the ring. They overlooked you, but I need you to be there because you've been there a long time. I need your help. And it's been a great partnership. And he still remembers that call that I made before I even showed up. And that went a long way to say, you know what? I don't know it all. I need you. I hope you stay. I understand if you don't, but here's who I am. Here's Bruce. This is what I want to, I want to make it better. And once I got through those 90 days, it really started to take off that the board and the club needs to have a strategic plan, needs to, understand the club business as far as what dues and capital dues and what they mean and what they do. And it's been a good journey, because we did, as you know, we did a major renovation. Last year, we did a $3.7 million renovation, the kitchen and the back of the house.
Looks so good.
Yes, it was so needed. And it it's basically the heart of the club has been redone, and you and I and anybody else will never go through another kitchen renovation at this club because we did it, and we did it right. So I just remember learning a lot about rules and regs, governance. I had to dive into the bylaws. I had to, really communicate with some of the other GMs. I went and met a GM at the Oaks. I went up to Tampa Yacht and Country Club. I really wanted to, sit down with those guys and have lunch and say, look, I don't know this stuff. You got to help me. And they've been great all the way through.
How long was the previous GM there for?
He was there a couple of years, I want to say. And I just think that he had a different philosophy than me. He wanted to make certain numbers off the backs of the team, and I'm more about let's build up the programming, let's build up the team, let's make sure they're paid well, because I know happy team makes for happy members, and just had a totally different just a different philosophy. So in a way, I came in a little bit as a hero, because when I met with the search committee, I said, it's not going to be the same way you guys have always had it. And so that's what we want you to do. We want you to come in, spend money, make the club better. We talked about being a club of distinction, and I believe this club can be that. And it has a lot of benefits, and it's a lot of hard work, but I believe the club, we can take the club to a club of distinction, and that has some financial responsibility. When I started at the club, we had 580 members. We almost have 780 now. We have kids programming. We have, we've raised initiation. We've raised dues. We've got capital money where we did projects. We're looking at project 2. We've hired new people. I think there's a lot to be proud of. That everybody's hard work, all the way through. But different Commodores, I had to learn different things, throughout the year, and I mentioned that earlier. And it was just, I was used to, if somebody came in and wanted to be a member, and I knew they were a good sailor, I could wheel and deal. And that's not the case here. It's cut and dry. Like I could say, okay, our initiation's 8,000. I'm going to do 6,000 for you, but I want you to teach, once a week the kids, and you know what I mean? I had a lot of power, bargaining power. Now, I run operations. I take care of the team. I, make sure that I give them the tools they need to do their job. And the board is the visionary, strategic thinking, long-term, how do we gain assets? How do we, and that's what I've had to learn over the 5 years.
Going back a tiny bit, when you say the GM was back-ending the staff or something, what, I don't know if that's just me like being dumb, but what does that mean?
Well, it means that he would make decisions on quality and make sure the budget was met, where I would make sure that we might go over a lot on the budget, but we have a low attrition rate of members leaving because the quality's there. That's what I mean. So almost on the back of the employees. So he would keep employee pay down. He would keep quality down. He would buy inexpensive things to where I'm more of, we need to buy the right thing the first time, even if it's 10 grand, we need to do it. And so I think that's what I mean on that subject.
Gotcha. I didn't know if you meant like he was like skimming off the back or something, like pay for play, like you want to work here.
Quick pro quo.
How bad do you like boats?
It just has a different philosophy. In other words, I'd rather do things right, be over, and it hurts my bonus a little bit, but I know it's the right things and take care of the employees, than to cut something to make sure I reach my bonus. That makes sense. So bonus is the last thing I worry about. It needs to be the right thing for the club, and like I said, happy employees, happy members.
Well, and when you showed me that kitchen, I've been at so many clubs, and a lot of them are very proud of their kitchens and take me through. And yours, that thing is massive, and just
Massive. Yeah.
it has anything and everything, and it's so well organized in the thought process and the placement of everything and the flow. And then you redid some of like the dining room to accommodate that as well, right? To all do that whole flow. And I know sometimes, just chatting with clubs, isn't it hard to get, because your members were behind it, which, I think we talked about how that's not always the case. Like, it's hard to get them behind such bigger investments that aren't visually for them that they can see.
Absolutely. I think that whole process went very well. We went from, we did a member survey. We did focus groups that were small, 10 or 12. We had an outside consultant do that. We had an outside consultant do the survey. We did town halls where we showed all the pictures. We had the architects and, builders there. We felt like nobody could say we didn't try to give everybody a chance on this project early and often. Communicated. I did our newsletters. We did, tried to e-blast everything to make sure we communicated. I think on the survey was a section on the kitchen and roof. And every member knew that we needed to redo the roof and knew that the kitchen was, just in disrepair. So I think it'd been deferred so long that it was a good topic to bring up and say, okay, now how do you want to pay for it? Okay, so we can knock the club down. We can do it in project phases, kitchen and roof being number one. We can do it on dues increase. We can do it on assessment. We can do it as a bank loan. We can do it in a combination. So they said, don't tear the club down. We love our club. Let's fix it in phases, and let's do it over time through our dues and initiation. And that's what we're doing. We did a bank loan also because we had money in the bank, and then so we did a loan, and we're paying on that. But we've increased our dues and initiation every year substantially because we were so far behind. But I think the process was great. We said we had goals like we're not going to close. We're going to, at first it was like, okay, Bruce, we're going to get you a little, grill out front. I'm like, no, we need a commercial kitchen. We need, 42 feet or bigger. Here, I went to, a company, I already had the information, and they're like, we don't need to spend this money. I'm like, we don't have a choice because we will lose members if we don't take care of them. And we didn't lose any extra. And we have to remind the members that they said they want, to pay for the major projects and their dues. And that's okay. It's an easy topic to have, or easy conversation to have.
Yeah.
But I think the process went really well, and we're going to do project 2 the same way.
And that was like the roof deck, or like the top part. Yeah, that's going to be really, really cool, especially after seeing your layout out back. That's going to add so much more space and opportunities in revenue from events and different things.
Absolutely.
Do you happen to know, random question, the loan type and how you work that out with the bank? You said it was like 3 point some million. How much of that did you finance, and how long did you finance that for?
Great question. So we did, we spent $1 million of our own money. You said that the kitchen was shiny and had everything that's needed in there. Well, $1 million went to equipment. So very expensive. And we interviewed multiple banks. We went with Bank of America. We did a loan for 2.7. And we got a really good interest rate, and we locked in for 10 years on that. So pretty smart of us. And of course, if we need to do it again, we can hopefully, get that same interest rate. But we locked in. The nice thing is we had some buying power with transferring all our banks to them, right? We were not banking with them. So all our dues and all our operating and capital went to Bank of America, and they did a great job to get us the loan. And we couldn't sign with the local guy because we had to go with them and the interest rate. Interest rate was a big deciding factor. And as you know, there's a lot of smart members in clubs that can help you with all this stuff.
Of course.
So you surround yourself with a lot of smarter people than yourself. And, we did very well. She comes, my person at Bank of America comes and visits, ask about operations. She asks about how I am. She cares about, the GM. And because she has Sarasota Yacht Club, Venice Yacht Club, 3 or 4 other clubs, so she understands how it works. So we have a mod, an operation mod that we have to keep. And so she comes and checks on us, and super nice lady. And we chat, and, more of a, temperature check and house membership and house things. And so you're in partnership with the banks.
1,000%. And yeah, it was just a nice plug for our show, Board Chats, here on Private Club Radio. But we just did a board chat episode, and we were just talking about that, which is why it was front of my mind. And they were just saying how so many clubs get into trouble because, whether they don't take the surveys or don't take the time to do whatever, and they just kind of, take these crazy finance deals over, 20, 30 years, and you're just kind of passing the buck onto the next kind of, not generation, but like the next group of people. So I was just interested since everything was going so well. I wanted to see how you, what the process was like financing that a bit. So thank you.
You're welcome. Good question.
Well, sir, it has been absolutely fantastic. I appreciate you being on, and I will probably see you sooner than later.
All right, my man. Appreciate the time. Thanks for having me, and whatever you need, let me know.
Hope you all enjoyed that episode. If you did, please share it with somebody else who you think might also enjoy it. Your support goes a really long way. Thanks again. Catch you on the flippity floppity.